All right, so I'm down in the barn here, packing up the Land Rover, and I'm gonna head up to Canada. I would like to try to reach the most remote point that you can drive in North America from a town. So I believe, based on what I've read on the internet, I believe that's at the end of the Taiga Road in northern Quebec. The end of the road is apparently 475 miles from the nearest town, according to the internet. So I'm gonna take a drive up to Canada and check out this area. I love the Taiga. I love northern Canada and the remoteness. All right, so I just found a spot to camp here up a little bit outside of Amos, Quebec. And I'm actually at a boat launch on a river. I don't remember the name, but the Land Rover did pretty good today. So it just turned 30,000 miles, but now I'm probably going to go to sleep because tomorrow my goal is to drive all the way up to the Taiga Road. All right, so I'm just starting the Billy Diamond Highway, which is the James Bay Road, and I'm gonna head all the way up to Radisson. All right, so I made it up here to the Rupert River, and you can see the rapids behind me are absolutely insane. The water is coming over these ledges and just like shooting up in the air and creating a mist, but I'm very impressed with the river up here. All right, so I'm getting pretty far north here. So as the sign says behind me, I'm at 52 degrees north latitude. It's about 45 degrees, a little bit rainy, a little bit windy, and I'm still heading north. So I made it onto the Taiga Road, and I'm about 50 kilometers in. It's just crazy to think that just yesterday I was at home, and now I'm on the Taiga Road in northern Canada. So I'm making some burgers and stuff, and I'm parked right next to this beautiful, fast-flowing river. And up ahead there's rapids. I just really wish I had my boat right now. It's morning, it's the beginning of the road, I'm at about kilometer 56 or so. I hope to make it to the end of the road today, but I'm not gonna let that stop me from stopping and seeing the sights along the way. It's such flat terrain, and even if you get up on a little bit of a knoll, you could just see off in the distance forever. But there's so much of this land that people have probably never even set foot on. You almost can't cross this Taiga, even with an ATV. The only way is by boat. That's the way to get around. So next time I think that it should be a boating trip and instead of a Land Rover trip. And I think I'd get to be able to see a lot more of the really remote country that way. But the Land Rover is doing great. I drove the whole James Bay Road yesterday without feeling too fatigued. I drove the 14 hours to get up to Mattagami from Connecticut without really feeling too fatigued. So, and if I do, I could lay down in the back. There's plenty of room, and sleeping in the back has been perfect for camping up here because there's mosquitoes, although there's not really too many. It is a little cold. Yesterday it was raining all day, so having a really secure shelter from the elements is probably the best thing possible. All right, so I'm just gonna drop my tire pressure a little bit for this rough dirt road. right, so I just reached the end of the Taiga road up here on this dam, and there's a stop sign. I can't go any farther than this. This is the end. I'm at the most remote point that you can drive in North America, 475 miles or so away from the nearest town, and it's about 6:30 or so, and I'm gonna start heading back. The vehicle did great. Camping was enjoyable. The weather is beautiful today. Yesterday it was a little rough, but this is an amazing drive. It's definitely up there in my top 10 remote drives in North America that I've ever done. I've really enjoyed this one. All right, so it's morning and I'm heading back across the Taiga road to the James Bay Road. But one thing I just can't get over up here is the lighting is so strange. It's hard to describe. It's maybe because I'm so far north, but it's fairly warm and the wind is keeping the mosquitoes away. And I think we just have lightning actually. But you have this unbelievable sunrise, a rainbow, lightning, strange orange lighting on the kind of otherworldly lichens and rocks. Oh yeah, we got that there. I should probably pack up. I can't stop enjoying this though. Oh, here comes the rain. All right, let's pack it up. And it just started completely downpouring. The orange lighting is gone. The rainbow is gone. All right, so I'm back at Brisé, and I need to make a decision here. I had this road marked on my Google Maps going south of Brisé that looked really interesting. It seemed to go on quite a ways into the wilderness, and Google shows the road ending, I think, like after 25 miles or so, but it does continue on the satellite photos. So I wasn't particularly going to check this out because it was to get from Mirage Outfitters, where I got gas, to the end of the road and back to Mirage is like about 400 miles. The truck holds 23 gallons. I should be able to do 400 miles, but it would be right on empty. So I have extra gas. I have 10 extra gallons. So I figured I would fill up 5 gallons when I hit the quarter tank mark, because I never like to run the tank right down to empty. Who knows how much sand is in that thing. So with that 10 gallons, I could go down this road, honestly. And I didn't really want to detour too much, but I think I'm going to check it out and see how far it goes and what's down there, if it looks interesting. And in theory, I have enough gas to do an extra 170 miles, but that would be really cutting it. That wouldn't be accounting for any reserve gas, which I would say 5 gallons is definitely a necessity for reserve gas. So if I could go down the road about 25 miles or so, that's fine. I'll go down and check it out and come back. I'm actually enjoying this road quite a bit. It feels much more remote than the Taiga road, and I don't know, the terrain just feels a little bit more primeval. It's rockier, more cliffs and kind of ledges. I am looking for caves, but I'm not hopeful because the geology just isn't there. But even a rock overhang I would be happy with. And the colors are just really vibrant with the moss, the seafoam green moss, and then the black rock, and then the dark green pine trees and a few yellow leaves mixed in because it is September. This terrain is actually quite entertaining. You'd think it would get boring after a while driving through the same thing, but it is a little bit monotonous. But when there's something even slightly different, you notice it right away. It could be just a hill with cliffs or a change in the flora. It could be just like a change in topography. Maybe it's a little bit flatter, but you notice every little detail. So it's not boring at all. In fact, it keeps you on the edge of your seat wondering what's going to be over the crest of the next hill. And that's something that I'm really enjoying down here on this road south of Brizay. Way out in the distance over there, you could see some cliffs where there's major collapse. I wonder if there's talus caves there. I'm kind of scrambling for any sort of cave that I could find up here. So I gotta say that cliffside back there, normally I would just go and check something like that out because it's so different from all the other terrain I've gone through. It just seems like a good destination, but it's almost impossible to traverse this terrain. There's almost no way to like hike across this. There's slippery rocks with moss, lots of crevices to break your ankle in. There's standing water, there's just tons of obstacles in your way to getting anywhere out here. It does look like some areas where there's forest fires might be the easiest areas to hike into, but other than that, you're pretty much stuck on the road or in a boat. There's something really strange about this terrain that kind of makes me feel like the Ice Age just ended and like the glaciers just receded like maybe 100 years ago and left all sorts of glacial erratics and big rocks with rocks left on top of them, probably from the glaciers. I doubt anyone put big rocks on top of other rocks. So it almost feels like, okay, the glaciers receded recently, vegetation took hold, and this is what it looks like. So my favorite movie growing up was Lost in the Barrens. I think I wore out the VHS tape that it was recorded off TV on. I mean, I must have watched it in the hundreds of times. I was just completely obsessed with this movie. I mean, they basically find a Viking grave out on the Barrens in northern Manitoba, but just being out in his land, I feel like a little bit of a connection to those feelings of awe and wonder that I experienced as a kid. So it's really not likely that there's caves or anything likely to be found out here. But I mean, there is a lot of rock. I mean, what if there was a large cliffside that collapsed and left like a natural cave? The land is so remote that maybe no one has seen this place. All right, so I found another one. I'm gonna go check out. This one looks pretty good. I don't know if you could call it a cave. All right, this one's more of just like a rock overhang. I mean, what I'm really looking for is something that I could LiDAR map. I just really want a LiDAR scan of something that you could call a cave, and this really isn't, more of just an overhang. So we'll keep looking. So it's downpouring. I've gone way farther than I thought that I could. I had an end marked on the road where I believed to end, but it keeps on going. I'm running really low on gas. All right, I'm gonna keep going so the GPS, I'm gonna go for another few miles and then I'm gonna stop. All right, yeah, so I'm way outside my comfort zone. Yeah, the road is getting a little rough. I shouldn't think it follow it much more. I'm going to go a little bit more, but I think I got to turn around. I'm just cutting it way too close to my extra gas. All right, thank God I finally found the end. I was getting really sketched out. I couldn't stop. I knew I could squeeze what I had in gas to get back, but I was cutting it right down to my absolute minimum. I'm still a little bit worried. So, okay, now I can turn back with a good conscience that I did everything I could to go as far into the Taiga as possible. I'll log my coordinates here. Now I'm turning back. It stopped pouring. All I want to do is get back to Mirage Outfitters and get gas. That's my only goal in my entire life right now. So let's turn around and head back.